our air layer. All right guys, we're here in my soil bin. As you can see, I'm running out of my living soil here. I did start ordering what I need to make a new batch, so make sure to stay tuned for that video. I'm just hoping I have enough to do this air layer. And I should. Normally I put my air layers in a 3-gallon pot or a 2-gallon pot, but as you can tell by the size of that air layer, I'm gonna need to really focus the next couple weeks here in growing out a solid root system to support that top of that tree. So you've seen tons of people use it. They use these 5-gallon buckets where they drill a couple holes. Pretty easy to do. So we'll go ahead and do that. Before I do anything, I make sure to size it up, try to come up with a game plan. All right guys, as you can see, I got a lot of goodies here. Perlite. I'm a huge fan of aeration. If you do use perlites, there's pros and cons, and we'll go through that in a different video. But what I like to use is this size 4 perlite. I think where figs grow from, they grow in like Mediterranean limestone filled environments, like rocky, volcanic, and I think these just look like rocks and something that the tree would have in the root system, around the root system, right? When I first found out about biotone, my gardening experience went tenfold, guys. If I had to add only one thing to this bucket today, it would just be this. This is just builds the perfect foundation, builds that root system, and carries the plant. So one thing to keep is definitely this, right guys? And then I have some azomite, which is kind of like volcanic dust. Running out of it, gotta get some more. Then we got both of our, I have different kinds of these. I find this brand here is one of the cheapest. I have some more expensive ones, some that are better in my opinion. But when I start out a plant or a transplant, these are my go-to, okay? All right, now that I'm ready to transplant this, what I actually first start off with, guys, is a good perlite base. Twofold. All I'm really trying to do is cover up the holes that are in my bucket. And when I'm ready to transplant this plant out of this 5-gallon, that perlite kind of helps the plant not get root bound. In a future video, I'll show you how I transplant plants from a bucket like this, and you can see what I'm talking about. It kind of air prunes the roots, so they don't really circle in, and then they kind of look like spaghetti in the bottom. So just enough to cover the holes. Then I take a layer of my living soil. I kind of build a concave nest in the bucket. So this air layer, the soil I use for it is ProMix HP M. So what I like to do is I like to take some of that and add that to the center so that the roots are accustomed to that soil. So when it starts to spread out from this ball, it's going to have some of its native soil. Then I add the biotone. Some azomite dust, or volcanic dust. What we have here is crushed oyster shell with calcium. And then once I sprinkle all of that in, I just take a light dusting. To kind of keep it in place. We'll go ahead and check it. This is the tricky part with this air layering balls. They're hard to put on and hard to take off. So I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be using these in the future, but they do work. Okay. As you can see, that's the air layer. I'm pretty impressed. This side looked weak for me. So now that we got it out and I'm seeing this side, I'm happy with that. Got my clippers here. Just gonna remove some of these leaves. Okay, and then what I'll go ahead and do is now sprinkle that on the root. So now we're going to go ahead and start to backfill it. I'm going to again start with the Pro Mix. Switch to my living soil. What I'm gonna do here, guys, is I'm not gonna fill the bucket up today. The goal is to eventually get the soil level up to here, but I want to control the watering in the pot, and I don't want so much soil right now. I want to be able to get it moist, and then be able to dry it out and repeat the process. When you put so much soil in here, it's really hard to see if the roots are getting enough moisture down there. So we'll probably fill this pot halfway. Just enough for it to be supported. What I like to use is a little PVC stick that I have. And that's kind of will help keep it supported. Trying to just adjust it as center as possible. Again, this this isn't the final home for this, so there's always time later down the road to adjust it and center it and tilt it. So we go there. Again, I love and I really believe figs in general love aeration, okay? So I put a pretty decent amount of perlite on the bottom of the pot, but as I build these layers, I start to sprinkle more of the perlite in. I like this big perlite so it doesn't float up and your soil in the top doesn't look all white. So in this living soil mix, we have perlite, we have pumice, and we also have rice hull. So this has a lot of aeration already. I just like adding more with the bigger perlite. Again, I'm just kind of throwing the living soil on the side of the bucket. HP Pro Mix in the middle. A lot of people don't like to compress their soil. When you do something with a lot of aeration like I have, I like to compress it. I'm not pushing really super hard down. Normally I'll give it a couple taps here, but just light pressure, kind of seal all of it in. Okay, another light sprinkling. And then finish it off with more living soil. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the depth for now. Like I said, we can always add more soil. Our goal is to get the soil up to here, but I want to be able to control the watering. So now we're gonna feed the air layer here. Now that we got our plant in there, what I actually do is I take limestone. This is 1 cup. Just work that in. This limestone, guys, is kind of like almost like sand. It will travel all the way to the bottom. It'll make its way. Okay, and then we got our Job's Organic Heirloom Tomato, my favorite fertilizer. Take a handful. So 2 handfuls. I'm like a mad scientist here, guys, with all these ingredients. And then we're gonna top it off with some worm castings. Okay, guys, and that's what I pretty much do. If it was nicer weather, still out in a longer season, I would go ahead and do my hay and cover crop technique that I do. But again, we have about 6 more weeks. So let's take it out of my soil bin and let's take a look at it, guys. All right, now that we got our plant, our air layer in the pot here, what we'll go ahead and do is we'll water it. I love these watering wands. What I generally will do is I'll set it to the mist. This one has kind of a flow adjuster. So I'll put it on the lowest setting. And all I'm trying to do is slowly saturate the pot here. So I'll do a little watering. I'm gonna kind of use this time to adjust the plant as well, keep it straight. And you guys saw I had a lot of drainage in my soil mix there. So I'm not really worried about the roots getting waterlogged. We're just gonna slowly, like I said, get this soil saturated. So I'll be right back. I did notice here is a node. My goal is to cover that. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more soil to get to this level here, just because I want to take advantage of that node to produce feeder roots. Give that another mist. All right, guys, now that we got the pot saturated here, we'll go ahead and support this air layer and try to start building it to grow straight up. You can see over here how the base is kind of tilting this way. That's going to be covered in the soil. So what I'm envisioning is, where does the plant start above the soil line? So I'm looking pretty much here, and that's where I want to keep it straight. I know you guys are probably thinking, hey, he didn't center it. Again, it's no big deal, because once this air layer gets going, we'll go ahead and transplant it, or we can air prune it, air trim it, and move it in the pot if we wanted to keep in the same 5-gallon. So again, my main focus is this trunk here and keeping that straight. And I got this really super thick bamboo, so I push it all the way down. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is start to tie the plant onto this bamboo. Okay. So it looks good. What I'm going to actually do is backfill behind the plant here. All right, guys, I'm really happy where the plant is right now. The next thing I'm asking myself is, are we going to worry about fixing these branches now? And I am. I'm going to fix it. I want the new owner of this tree to have the best tree possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some bamboo stakes and build this Y for them, so they get off to a nice good form and build nice strong scaffolds. All right, guys, we're gonna do an audible here. See this plant here? It's only been less than an hour and it's starting to wilt. Our intention was to kind of Y it out, but I don't think it's gonna make it. If I don't sacrifice this branch right now, guys, the whole plant might not make it. So we're just gonna do a single trunk. Sometimes you have to make these calls for the overall health of the plant. All right, guys, so here's the Chicago hardy air layer. You can see the plant is already struggling. It was a lot of plant for such a small root. We'll hope it recovers. We'll keep an eye out on it, guys. Again, I'm new to air layering. I had an assumption that it was too big up top. That Y shape was looking good. But I don't think it would have survived. It was too much growth up top. So again, we want to make sure that we get the best healthy plant going, and we can worry about the scaffolds later. I'm like even tempted to just cut this one here. We'll see. We'll leave it for now, and then we'll keep an eye on it. Like I said, if it's something where I feel like we need to just cut this, we'll cut it. We'll go ahead and move this to my shade side of my house, and keep an eye on it, guys.